Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Ship and Read. Today I'll be doing my Asian book recommendations. So before I get started, if you are new to this channel, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below as well as hit the notification bell. But I am excited to actually have more than 5 books this time to recommend, because I feel like every single time I do this video, I feel like I just don't have a ton of Asian authors, Asian books to recommend. And this year I actually have 8, so that is a huge plus on my end. I'm very excited about that. So let's just start with all the books that I'll be recommending. By the way, these are all books that I have read from last year May to this point in time, so they're all like recent reads for me, or recent-ish reads for me. The first book slash series I really want to recommend is Demon Slayer. This manga series is honestly freaking amazing. The artwork, the storyline, the characters, the relationships, like everything is just top notch. So this book basically follows a guy called Tanjiro, where one day he is, running some chores. He goes into the village to sell charcoal, and he ends up getting delayed and comes back home the next day instead. And he comes home to find that his entire family has been completely slaughtered by demons, and to his horror, his sister has turned into a demon herself. But somehow he manages to get his sister under control, and somehow she does not fall under the temptation to bite him and eat him. And so before long, he finds himself training to become a demon slayer with her as, his companion. And as he journeys through different adventures, he picks up 2 more companions along the way. And this series is so good. I highly recommend this series. I feel like I don't really recommend a lot of mangas just because I don't really read a lot, to be honest, but this manga series that I read last year was just so freaking good. Highly recommended if you love anime and just adventure, and obviously really good action sequences too. And not only that, but unlike a lot of other manga series, this series is not super long. I think it's about 20 something volumes, so it's not a crazy length, I think. And I think it's totally doable if you want to just binge it for a week or two. Very easy series to do that. All right, then the next book slash series I want to recommend is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. So if you have watched my first video that I did for this, I will link that above and down below, which is a few years ago. I actually did recommend this book on there already, but this time I am recommending the entire series, because at that point I have not read the second and third book, but now I have, and all the books in the series is freaking 5 stars. I just feel like this series is just such a good mix of humor, of satire, of culture, and just really good characters and just plot as well. Everything about this series was just so much fun to read. There were just so many incidences where I was just laughing out loud. I love how outrageous some of the characters were with their wealth, and just how exaggerated Kevin Kwan made them out to be. But at the same time, it didn't seem too out there, because the main characters, Nicholas and Rachel, were very down to earth. Not to mention Astrid Leung, who was extremely wealthy, but she also seemed very chill, very grounded. And with those 3 characters being really chill and not like the other rich people, I feel like it made the book, I feel like it made the dynamic a lot more interesting and a lot more manageable. Because I think it was just crazy Asians the entire time, I would just be oh my god, this is way too much. But there's definitely a balance there, and I really appreciated that. So if you're looking for a really good, fun, entertaining series, I highly recommend this one. Not to mention the romance in here and the cultural references is done really well, especially when the author kind of goes into the whole mainland China versus Chinese immigrants who went to Malaysia or Singapore, and kind of their differences there. I thought that was actually really fascinating. Then the next book that I really want to recommend is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This book, first of all, let's just take a second to admire how beautiful this book is. Look at this cover art, okay, and look at this art here, if you can see it very clearly. It's just such a pretty edition, and I don't know, I'm in love with it. I already ordered The Dragon's Promise from Fairy Loot as well. But yeah, anyways, this book is so freaking good. I mean, it basically follows a princess called Shiori, who's, due to circumstances, her 6 brothers have turned into these cranes, and now she's under a curse where she cannot speak, because any words that she speaks will actually cause one of her brothers to die. And so now she is trying to figure out how to release her brothers from this curse, free herself as well as figure out what's going on with her stepmother. So there's a lot of romance in here, a lot of adventure. I just love the dynamics too, because there's this whole like honestly, I don't even know how you would describe this trope, because it's a forced marriage type of situation, or like for arranged marriage, but she was not into him. But the thing is, she never actually met him, and now that she met him outside of context, you know, there's this like spark going on, this chemistry. I have no idea what that trope is called, but I am here for it, and it is so freaking good. Not to mention there's also a dragon in here called Suryu, and I am like obsessed with him too, like low-key, because I don't know, his charm and his like demeanor is just so entertaining, especially because I feel like the second book is going to go more into a love triangle situation, and I cannot wait to see how that plays out. But yeah, if you're looking for a really good like retelling, beautiful writing, really interesting characters, highly recommend this one. Then this next series I want to recommend is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha and Young. This is a series that was actually really freaking good. I would say that the second book was probably the weakest. I gave that book 3.5 stars, but the entire series itself is like a solid 4-star read. There were just so many things about this book that, I don't know, came as a surprise. There's so many plot twists and turns. Some of the characters were very morally gray, and at first I was like, okay, they seem like they're good characters, and then as this story kind of progresses, you kind of see where they become more grayish, and then you're wondering, should I root for them, should I not root for them? I feel like Natasha and Young did a really good job with just characterizations for some of her characters, and just making them so complex and have so many different layers, because it's not just a simple black and white circumstance here. And I feel like as you read and continue on the series, some of the characters start to realize that themselves, and they realize that, you know, even though the Demon King is not good, I mean, that's the whole purpose of the book, where they're trying to take down the Demon King, even though he is obviously, you know, black, very black and white, he's evil, etc. There's so many nuances that goes into there in terms of like, what about this new kingdom country that they're trying to create by defeating the Demon King? Like, what are some of their issues there, and how can we change for the better, etc. And I feel like this series just answered so many questions and raised a lot of questions as well, and it was just really fascinating to kind of like go through all of it and see how much each characters have changed as the story progressed. So if you're looking for a really good series that kind of delves really deep into, you know, what is right and what is wrong, as well as just being, you know, a good person, I feel like this is a really good series. Then the next book that I want to recommend is a Pho love story. This book is so freaking cute. I feel like I don't really read a lot of like romances that often these days. I do, but I don't. Like, I feel like it's just, I definitely read more fantasy. So I'm excited to kind of share a solid YA romance book that features Asian characters. Plus, I feel like this one gives a lot of like Romeo Juliet vibes, where it follows, you know, two people whose parents have rival Vietnamese restaurants, and the thing is, neither of them really understand why there is a rivalry going on and why their families hate each other so much. And so they're trying to kind of uncover what exactly is the reason, and there needs to be more than just the fact that they are neighboring / rival restaurant owners. So this book was really freaking cute. I love the dynamic between the two characters. I love how they uncovered what exactly happened between the two families and why exactly do they hate each other so much. I love all this revealing of the secrets. I thought everything was really done well, and not only that, but there were so many food mentions. I mean, considering this whole book revolves around two restaurant owner kids and everything, there was so much food involved, and it just made me very hungry. Like, after that, I kept craving Vietnamese food, like pho. I was like, I need some of that, because honestly, like, pho is such a good comfort food. I mean, just the other day I had pho because I was like really hungover, so you know, it's a really good hangover food, guys, if you're looking for that. But putting that aside, this is a really cute romance book featuring Asian characters. All right, then this next book I want to recommend is Iron Widow by Shirin J. Zhao. This book was so much better than I expected. I don't know why. I just felt like this book had so much expectations riding on its shoulder because of all the hype that it received, and I am so glad to say that it did not disappoint at all. I also felt like this book tackled issues and situations that I don't see common, especially in books set in Asia. Like, it's just not really talked about, at least in like modern day literature, or at least in terms of what I am aware of. I just don't really see that kind of like, you know, situations going on, because of this book, it does follow a polyamorous like MMF romance, and I don't know, like, it was just such a different experience, and I was not expecting that either. So I thought it was really freaking cool that the author incorporated this into this book and just made it different. Like, it wasn't just your average like, oh, this girl actually was very powerful and she overcame like the patriarchy society, but also the fact that the romance was different too. It was just top notch. Like, I highly recommend this book if you have not picked up already. The action in here, the characters, the romance in here as they kind of like uncover or like discover their attraction to each other was done so well. Not to mention the whole like aliens, and the ending was just, honestly, I feel like the ending just made the book so much more fascinating, because I think for me personally, I was like, this is really good. It was like a 4-star read, but the ending just tipped it a little bit higher, because it just ended on such a intense cliffhanger that I don't know, I'm so intrigued right now to find out what will happen next, because so much stuff I feel like will be explained in the second book about the world, and cannot wait to read that. All right, then this next book that I want to recommend is Love Boat Taipei. This book was really good. I definitely had different expectations going into it, but overall I still really want to recommend it just because of what the author was trying to do and the characters and the romance. So my experience was definitely different than the author's experience in this book, or how she portrayed the character's experience in this book, because I don't know, like, I read this book primarily because I was curious to see how the author portrayed the summer camp aspect, because I myself have gone on summer camp, so I was curious about that. There's definitely some differences there, but for the most part though, I feel like the actual being in Taiwan, the night markets, the culture, like all that stuff was very reminiscent of my experience as well. So I really like that. I think there's definitely a lot of like personal connections with a lot of the scenes, the setting that the author portrayed in this book, which is why I really enjoyed it. Not to mention the romance was actually really fascinating. I love the dynamics between the two male characters and the female character, because they were so different, and I feel like there was just so many times in this book that I thought it could have easily gone a different way completely, just in terms of the romance, because of what the author was trying to do. So I'm curious about the second book for sure. I don't know if it's like, I've heard like mixed things about the second book, but either way though, I feel like this first book was really freaking good, and it definitely took me by surprise by how much I enjoy this book. Then the last and final book I want to recommend for this video is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This book definitely deserves all the hype. I really enjoyed it. This book honestly was just so like beautiful with the writing. I would say that the beginning definitely had a slow start to it, but once you kind of like go past it, everything starts to pick up. There's so much adventure, there's so much action, there's so much like political intrigue about the different situations that was going on in this book. Not to mention the romance in here was very interesting, because they were just, I feel like the characters wanted different things, but they also wanted the same thing. It's hard to describe without like spoiling things, but I really enjoyed the romance in here. The love triangle that was happening in this book was really well done. I am really curious to see how the second book will play out because of how this first book ended. Just a lot of like cliffhangers, and I'm just super curious. But yeah, if you're looking for really good, beautiful writing, like this book is honestly has some of the most gorgeous writing that I have encountered recently. It's just stunning. Like, it is just lyrical, it's descriptive without being like overly so. I also loved how this book took place over many years, considering the fact that they're all immortals in this book. So you definitely feel like, you know, if it was in like human years, I think that it would be a little bit more like, I feel like it would be like, it would make the book less intense. But because this book took place over many years, I felt like it kind of nurtured their relationship and the romances a lot more, as well as the characters. So anyways, if you're looking for really beautiful lyrical writing with really great characters, a really intense ending, I highly recommend this one. So anyways, these are all the books that I recommend this time around. Let me know down below if you have read any of these before. If you have, what do you guys think about them? Do you have any recommendations for me to check out? But as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, or if it does help out my channel. And if you see more content of me, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below, as well as hit the notification bell. And as always, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!